The video I'm about to react to is 30 minutes long. I promise you, the video you are about to watch will at least be an hour. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I open to ooh, I almost smacked the taste out myself. Have it on me and keep it on me at all times. Another fun fact. It's been a minute since I did a reaction video, mainly because I'm trying to make a reaction channel, but I'm still figuring out what the schedule for that would be, because it can't be every day. It literally can't. So I'm still going to do some reaction videos for the main channel one last time, for the one time before I end up fully making it my own individual reaction channel to do things like this more consistently and more consistent basis. But with that being the case, we're here to react to Gamblrr's. Wait, am I a fool? I think I'm literally a fool. Hold on. I think I'm literally genuinely a fool. But let me see if I can fix my foolishness right now. Hold on. Do we know ball? We know ball. We know ball. Okay, we know a little bit of ball. But with that being the case, we're here to react to Gamblrr's. Could Heian era Sukuna win the final battle? And this is a question that, I think I asked myself once, only to immediately say, yeah. Yeah. Now, here's the question. Here's the real question. Is he talking about just Heian era Sukuna against the Shinjuku Showdown squad post-Gojo, or is he talking with Gojo? Because there are levels to this. Well, I thought about it once. It was like, yeah, this is how it goes. Let me go over the two main scenarios. There's either scenario one, where it's literally just once Sukuna incarnates, it's like he never incarnated post-Gojo fight. He's just Heian era Sukuna, aka he doesn't have a vessel. And the reason I say he genuinely just automatically wins is because Yuji's useless. He would never be able to debuff his output, and he'd just genuinely solo stomp everybody. Essentially, think of how he did Kashimo. He did that to everybody. Because Yuji wouldn't be able to entertain him. No one would be able to entertain him. He'd be too cracked. But there's the other alternative where he fights Gojo with no refresh. Right? It's Heian era Sukuna, meaning he doesn't have a vessel. But also, he's fighting Gojo first. He has to somehow beat Gojo. There are ways. It's literally just Malevolent Shrine, Domain MGG. But he needs to beat Gojo. And then fight everybody else. And I still think he wins, mainly because even if his output gets slightly nerfed during the Gojo fight, even nerfed output Sukuna was able to perform the net of dismantles that one-shot Kashimo. No one else is surviving that. Let's be so for real right now. No one else is surviving that. Not Yuta, not Yuji, none of them. So if Sukuna just starts doing that, he wins. It really, and I say this, and I know a lot of people really, some of my fellow Sukuna sloppers out there don't like when I say this, but Sukuna could have easily won the main battle too. He was just dumb. He was just an idiot. He was just stupid. He was just an idiot. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Sukuna could have easily won in the main timeline if he had just locked in for more than 5 seconds against anyone not named Maki. That was it. He didn't even have to lock in. He didn't really, well, I mean, he kind of locked in against Kashimo. But, literally, just that dismantling that they did around start. Just, slashing Yuji and Higuruma out the sky. Genuinely, just using Kamutoke a bit more. He had so many easy win cons in the main timeline that for Heian era Sukuna versus the final battle, or at least I assume the Shinjuku Showdown squad, I assume he could still easily beat Gojo. Once again, Domain Amp plus Malevolent Shrine GG. I've gone over this, a million different times, but I'll talk about it again if he ends up bringing it up. And for the rest of the squad, they aren't comp, bro. They aren't comp. And with Yuji being genuinely useless, because Yuji doesn't do soul damage, and even if he does, his soul damage sucks. Hear me. Hear me when I say it. Yuji doesn't do soul damage, but even if he does, his soul damage sucks. It's the worst soul damage in the series. If you couldn't tell, I'm writing versus battle scripts myself, so I literally have to make a whole argument for that. And I may go into it here, depending on if Gamblrr brings it up. But with that being the case, if you couldn't tell by how much I'm yapping already, this is going to be a long video. I warned you in the intro. I'll try to binding vow this so it only ends up being about an hour, but that would be a record for you, boy. So let's not waste any more time. Let's hop right into Gamblrr's Could Heian era Sukuna win the final exclamation point battle? Well, down exclamation point, all caps, battle.
For an entire year in real time, Ryoma Sukuna ran through the defenses and destroyed the efforts of our beloved cast one by one. Chapter after chapter, character after character, and defeat after defeat, it felt like an endless loop of how do we even finish this monster off? Well, what if we replace said monster with another version of himself? In today's video, we'll be talking about exactly that. What's up guys, Gamblrr here, and you read the title and you saw the thumbnail. Heian era Sukuna in Shinjuku Showdown. I promised a video on the boy in my How Strong is Sukuna video. Make sure to check that out after this one.
I did check that one out, mainly because I don't think, like, at least from my understanding, that was just like a review of Sukuna scaling. And I was like, I don't think I'll do a reaction to that one. Mainly because, like, you kind of know my thoughts on Sukuna scaling. I think he's the strongest. But let's see.
I'd really appreciate it. Anyways, can Heian era Sukuna change the outcome of the battle? Let's find out right.
Is it Heian or Heian? I feel like I always say Heian era, but I've heard Heian enough that I'm generally questioning myself. Like, Urame, I always said Uraume, but it is Urame. So, like, I may just be wrong. Is it Heian era, not Heian era? I actually don't know. For any of my people who actually know the pronunciation, let your boy know, because I'm going to say it a lot in a couple of videos. Let's see.
Right now. Before we get into it, make sure to like and subscribe. We're making almost weekly JJK bangers over here, so you don't want to miss out.
I liked.
At the end of Shinjuku Showdown in the original story, Urame, salty as heck, tells Hikari that they only won because Sukuna was an incarnated sorcerer.
Big facts. Big fact. Well, Sukuna was incarnated sorcerer, and he's stupid. I will always say it. And if y'all think I'm a Sukuna slapper, because I've gotten allegations. As like originally as one of the greatest Gojo Glazers behind pins himself, I transitioned to a Sukuna slapper, and I've seen a bunch of people be like, "You're a fake Sukuna slapper," because I call him stupid. But no, he's an idiot, and that's the good character writing. You see, you like Sukuna because he's strong. I like Sukuna because he's a well-written character, and he's strong. Let's see.
All they really had to do was separate him from the vessel. We're gonna test that theory because obviously
I still don't know why Giga got so freaky with the second to the last volume, dog. Like, why? Put the tongue away. He has both of them out, too. Like, why? Let's see.
Heian era Sukuna isn't in anyone's body. That guy's a full human. I made a Gojo version of this like 3 months ago, I think, so go
well, butter my behind and call me a biscuit. I know what I'm live reacting to after this. And that one's shorter? Yeah. But on the top of my dome piece, before I end up reacting to that one as well, Gojo should win. Mainly because Yuji's useless again. And almost notably, unironically, everyone's useless. Maki can't do anything to him because of Infinity. Yuta, I mean, he could use Jacob's Ladder. But then again, we just know Gojo has like dumb, stupid base stats and would probably still overwhelm them with just Curse Energy Reinforcement. And that's if Gojo doesn't like find a way to break the barrier. And notably, and in fact, let me think about it on top of that. I guess it depends on if he fought Sukuna beforehand. Is he still locked from his domain? Because then he wouldn't be able to domain clash with Yuta. But then again, if he could domain clash with Yuta, that's a GG. We know he's going to win that. So yeah, I honestly think Gojo would just slam them viciously. Because Infinity is just as, even more difficult for them to overcome properly than it would be for the, than it was for Sukuna. So let's see.
Check that out if you want to, but there I had to lay out some ground rules to make the scenario make a little more sense. Heian era Sukuna in Shinjuku is a fun but also a complex situation, so let's get into some changes or confirmations we may have to make in order for that scenario to be perfect. First off, Heian era Sukuna has no knowledge on anyone's curse technique. In the original,
I guess it does have to be, like, if it's gonna be just Heian era Sukuna transport to the modern day, I guess he wouldn't know anybody. That could cause issues in the Gojo fight. But really, it really depends on how stupid you think Sukuna was 1,000 years ago. Like how dumb do you think he was? Like, do you think he's dumb enough not to immediately expand his domain once Unlimited Void comes out? Do you think? I think, nah, because I feel like Sukuna would do it anyway. Like, notably, like, Sukuna's an idiot, but he's not stupid. And, like, once he senses Gojo, like, Heian era Sukuna would even be like, wait a minute. Wait, especially if the battle opens the exact same way where a Hollow Purple is launched, he's gonna be like, whoa. What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, he would immediately open his domain anyway. And then it really comes to a question, how big does he open the domain? If he does like the same thing he did when he was Mega Knight and open it really small for some reason, then yeah, Gojo can just like escape and then essentially follow the main timeline. But if he doesn't, if he just opens it to full size, I don't think Gojo can get out. And I don't think Sukuna, once again, one of the biggest reasons why I say Megana could still beat Gojo, right? Like, you don't even have to go into True Body Sukuna. Megana could beat Gojo without Maharaga, is mainly because we know for a fact he wasn't using domain implications throughout the entire battle. He was specifically flickering it on and off in their 3-minute domain clashes so Maharaga could adapt, and he didn't accidentally fully shut Maharaga down. That's why he could probably last 0.01 more seconds, and then Gojo's domain would break, and then he would never have to worry about re-upping Melvin Shrine and healing his own brain, putting himself into brain damage burnout, and getting hit by Limited Void. So, like, Heian era Sukuna, the exact same thing, except worse, because it's just a stronger version of Sukuna. And Megano was already relative without a stronger body. With 2 mouths and 2 extra arms. Like, a whole extra, like, 150 pounds of muscle, and however much taller you think true form Sukuna is than Megami, which I bet is at least like 2 feet. Let's see.
Story, we see him use Megami's memory, but also his experiences in Yuji's body to extract certain information about the characters he's going against. Like, for example, him knowing about Yuta and his copy technique, but also him knowing a good way to get around Gojo's unlimited void, because
I also do think a lot of it comes from kenjaku. Like, I do think, at least for the Yuta stuff, because remember, Sukuna never really got to witness much of Yuta, because Yuta kind of just like curb stomp Yuji without ever actually having to use his curse technique or domain. So he actually had little to no information on Yuta. But Kenjaku knew basically everything about Yuta and was like, hey, here's his tech. Let me tell you everything about him. And this is another instance. The funny thing is, I don't know why, like, this is a panel that I don't know why was included, right? Like, you could have just, like, Kenjaku, and I'm talking about Kenjaku here. The only ones unaffected by Limited Void are people who've come into contact with him. But, like, why is he telling him that? When Sukuna would definitely already know that because of what's referenced here. I don't know. It's like, I remember even reading it for the first time, and I was like, oddly redundant. But I guess it's fine that Kenjaku tells him that as well. I suppose. And that does make you wonder, how does Kenjaku know that? When did he interact with Limited Void? That just implies that, like, the limitless domain expansion always turns into a Limited Void, so that's why he knows how it works. Because I genuinely don't know. Unless this is Sukuna telling Kenjaku the information and Kenjaku just repeating it, I don't get it. Let's see.
Because he was in Yuji's body when he used it. There are also smaller examples, of course, like Sukuna realizing Ino had Nanami's curse tool, but overall, you get the point, no free information. But since this is Heian era Sukuna, the gang has limited information as well. Gojo has some vague lore about Sukuna, but Angel is genuinely their biggest asset. Angel literally went against that boy, and she knows about his curse technique, the power of both Sukuna's curse tools, and possibly even more. That being said, we get into the second confirmation. The order of characters will still stay the same.
Okay. I mean, I guess that makes sense, right? Notably, staggering the sorcerers was actually one of the smartest things they could have done, because Sukuna could have just, like, dismantled and edited all of them if they should have at the same time. So that is fine, that's fine.
In the Gojo video, characters like Hikari and Yuta jumped into the fight because Yorami and Kenjaku aren't on Gojo's side, but obviously this time we do have those 2 goons because it's Sukuna we're dealing with. So everything is the exact same. Basically all we're doing is replacing that incarnated Sukuna with the Heian era Sukuna. The planning for Sukuna may have been different if they...
So wait, there's gonna be no Hikari? So we're... Okay, so we truly are literally just swapping out Sukunas. I mean, once again, I do ultimately think Hikari actually wouldn't add much. So, like, I guess that is, like, cruel of me, but, like, with Heian, it really depends on how nerfed, because I'm assuming he's gonna fight Gojo, right? Like, there's no way this video is 30 minutes long and he doesn't fight Gojo. So, it really depends on how long Gamblrr thinks Gojo versus Sukuna is gonna go. I don't think he's gonna say Gojo's gonna beat Sukuna. I just don't think that. Once again, the video's a little bit too long for that, and he's talking about the final battle, and Gojo vs. Sukuna was not the final battle. So, he's gonna have Heian era Sukuna beat modern Gojo. I'm assuming through DA plus MS. I mean, like, that's typically the main argument. Like, the only other arguments I've seen for, like, especially if, because I know there's the assumption that Sukuna may not have had DA in the past. He may not have. Like, Kenjaku may have taught him that. Like, we know he taught Hanami and Jogo it. But, if you remove that, then it literally just comes down to domain clashes. And Sukuna making sure to open his domain to full scale and not small scale, and making sure that Gojo has to consistently interact with him. While also presumably fighting for his life, because without DA, he's going to actually have to deal with Gojo at full power at all times inside domain clashes. But he'll have a stronger base body to deal with it, and we know he's able to tank stuff better with the bigger, bulkier body. So we'll see what ends up happening.
Base it on a Heian era Sukuna, but at the end of the day, all we have to do is switch the mindset from separate Sukuna to kill Sukuna. If you really...
Wait. Actually, you know who could be a crazy... You know who could be a crazy sleeper, like, show stealer? If Gamblrr wants to pull that twist, you know what he could have it? I didn't even think about it. Since they aren't trying to save Megami, if it goes, like, once again, he's making a point that the Sorcerer Order is staying the same, right? So that means Maki's still being held back. It may be like, oh no, here comes Pencil with the Maki meat munching. And yes, I am. Because one of the biggest things that could have easily happened is that Maki could have just decapitated Sukuna. When she gives Sukuna backshots through the heart, the only reason they do that is because they know Sukuna can live without his heart. But, obviously, if you're gonna attack a sorcerer and specifically try to slaughter one, you want to go for the head. We see Toji do this. We see Gojo mention that he should have done it. We see almost every other time a sorcerer is actually trying to be lethal, they're going for the dome piece. So if Heian Sukuna gets Soul Split Katana jabbed directly into his skull, he's dead. You know what? It really depends. He may be extra dead. You want to know why? The only reason he could heal SSK before was because he had the external soul knowledge from being a dual soul being, which he wouldn't have at this point. If it truly is Heian Sukuna, he wouldn't have learned anything about soul manipulation stuff because he only learned soul manipulation stuff after he was turned into fingers and after he interacted with Yuji. So unironically, Maki may actually be the dub stealer here if everything goes like pretty much exactly the same. Assuming they get to the point where Sukuna's off guard, if Maki lunges in and just jabs SSK into his brain, he's cooked. He's cooked. He's cooked. Heaven forbid she tries to decapitate him. The only reason I think she'd probably still go for a stab is because it's easier. Like, she would have to, it'd be like charging like this versus charging like this. And who knows, with how fast Sukuna is, if he starts to feel a blade like going through the back of his neck, he may be like, whoa, and then move out the way because he is that crazy and cracked. But if she just goes straight for his skull, even just any piercing damage by SSK would be permanent against Heian Sukuna, unlike how it would be permanent against Meguna and modern Heian body Sukuna. So Maki may actually be the sleeper dub. Hold on. Are we gonna get a Maki dub? Wait a second. Let's see.
When you think about it, that was basically the plan the entire time. It's just that some techniques were made for extraction, but also they can plainly be used for damage, or certain characters have alternatives. This will make way more.
Yeah, a really big question though is like, how effective would Jacob's Ladder be on Sukuna without being in another vessel? Like, because we know it didn't do anything in the past. Angel, the original user of the technique, didn't really do anything to Sukuna, and obviously it's very heavily implied that Yuta is stronger than Angel. But would it still have the same burning effect? Essentially, I assume it would be like the weakened Jacob's Ladder against Sukuna, except possibly even softer, right? Because he doesn't have a second soul to be ripped away from. He doesn't have like an incarnate technique. He just wouldn't be able to use his abilities, which would be nice. But it's still Heian body Sukuna who has the best stats in the verse. Well, I don't know. Let's see.
More sense later in the video, so just stay locked in and you'll understand. There's another problem, and it's kind of funny because it's an issue with the continuity. If the incarnated Sukuna wasn't in the modern era, Yuji wouldn't be as strong as he is. Heck, dude wouldn't even be born. With that said, just imagine everything in the story went the exact same way, but delete everyone's active memories of the incarnated Sukuna so that they don't have the advantage on him. For example, Kusakabe, Yuji, and some others knew about the open domain expansion
and didn't tell Gojo. They didn't tell Gojo.
Sukuna surviving with no heart, Fuga.
Well, actually, let me correct myself, because I've been correct on this before. We don't know if they did tell Gojo and he just didn't know how they would interact, but like I love Gojo versus Sukuna, but it's not my favorite battle in the series. It's not even like, I'll be honest, I don't even think it's in my top 3. It has to be in my top 5. I think legally speaking, Gojo versus Sukuna has to be in my top 5. But there are a bunch of things with that battle, from the scale of it to some of the interactions to some of the ability usage, where I'm like, both of these characters were unnecessarily stupid. One of my biggest things is Gojo not either, because I'm not sure which is worse. The entire crew, multiple who knew Sukuna had an open barrier domain, not telling Gojo, or Gojo knowing there was an open barrier domain and just risking it, just straight gambling, restlessly. But like, I don't know which is worse, but regardless, that was kind of like, I'm not going to go into my critiques of Gojo vs. Sukuna here. That's going to be a whole video for another time, because I do have a bunch. It's a long battle, so I have a bunch of critiques for the battle and why it's not anywhere near my like favorite. There are so many battles I appreciate more. Some that come actually after Gojo vs. Sukuna. So like, I know this is going to blow some people away, considering I know like the Shinjuku Showdown is actually that well received. But at least for me, there are a couple battles I appreciate more after the fact than I do actually Gojo vs. Sukuna itself. But let's see.
And other things because he existed in the modern era. Literally just take out those memories from them and then assume the entire time skip was spent training for Heian Sukuna based on the information we have. I know this is going to be a fun video to make, so let's stop yapping immediately. Heian era Sukuna versus Shinjuku's showdown. We know that Sukuna won't be the one to start up the problem, so as that boy is chilling, sitting in Shinjuku, a sudden burst of cursed energy appears meters away. It's Gojo Satoru, the strongest of the modern era, charging up a full power Hollow Purple with the help of Ichiji, Utsuhime, and Gakuganji. Holding absolutely nothing back, he misses no chance and no hand signs. Sukuna, having never felt such cursed energy before, gets excited. This is the first time during his boring human life someone with potential has challenged him after he claimed his position as the strongest. Alright, so elephant in the room, let's address that huge animal. Heian era Sukuna most likely does not have domain amplification.
Oh, so we're going on that path. Okay, so we're going on that path. That is, once again, I don't blame people because it is debatable. We just don't know. It's one of the many vague things in JJK that, like, Gege leaves up to our interpretation. If you think it's a barrier technique and Sukuna has all barrier techniques because he's literally Sukuna, then bada bing bada boom, he has the DA. Like bada bing. Like, if anything, you could argue Sukuna came up with DA, taught it to Kenjaku, and then Kenjaku taught it, and bada bing bada boom. Because it's never really implied that Kenjaku gave much of anything to Sukuna except for possibly information on Yuta and slight information on Gojo that Sukuna already had. That's about all that's implied. But at the same time, we just don't see any of the previous characters use DA. DA does appear to be a more modern technique, but not as modern as Sublimate. So, like, it is very strange. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say it's not, like, weird or kooky or buku bonkers. So, a Sukuna without DA versus Gojo, he has to open full-scale domain. Because the thing is, right, the debuff to Gojo's techniques that would come from DA gets made up for by the fact that Sukuna has a stronger body. But he does need to soften those techniques. Because we know, even if he wasn't using it consistently to soften all techniques in the domain clashes, in his weaker body, he was still taking damage. And remember, this is the same guy whose domain collapsed because his sternum got caved in. So, like, this is actually a pretty big issue if he doesn't have DA. So, Heian era Sukuna versus Gojo without DA. What are my thoughts on this? It really depends on whether or not Sukuna is able to keep Gojo in Malevolent Shrine. Here's why. The issue here is, I don't think, especially on the first clash that's going to happen, I think it's going to go just as it did in canon. They may, like, look at each other for a few seconds, maul each other real quick, but then Gojo's domain is going to instantly shatter because it's weaker on attacks on the outside, the dismantles from the outside are going to crush it. But depending on the scale of the domain, if it's still the small one that Megura does, then Gojo could just back out, heal his technique, and keep it pushing. Or if it's the full scale one, now that Gojo's technique is down and he's in burnout, especially if this Sukuna has things like Kamutoke and Hiten, considering this is Heian era Sukuna, if he's not feeling playful, he could just barrage and absolutely violate Gojo instead of just standing there and looking at him like he did when he was Mega. Because remember, we know Megura very specifically was not attacking Gojo consistently while he was in burnout because he was still wanting Gojo to re-up and so he could evolve Maharaga. Remember, the whole battle of Gojo versus Sukuna is Sukuna essentially trying to evolve his technique. That's why he does a lot of weird moves in that fight, like not attacking Gojo for long swaths of time when he easily should be. But Heian era Sukuna has no Ten Shadows technique. He's not going to be waiting for anything. He's just going to be trying to kill Gojo. Especially if Gojo attacks him first, considering Sukuna does seem to be one who takes pleasure in being attacked, because, you know, he does like to fight, but he'd probably find it a bit rude. So I'd assume that a Heian era Sukuna would take the opportunity to pile on Gojo if Gojo can't escape the domain in time, considering he would literally have to run out. And we know Heian era Sukuna is dumb stupid fast. And we also know that a fully fresh Gojo, when being controlled by Yuta at least, is still comparable to a super duper uber juper weak Heian body Sukuna, as we saw the, like, one-arm Sukuna go up against Gota. So Sukuna would undeniably be able to keep his hands on Gojo, and a big thing that he could do is grab him literally with two of his arms and then just Kamutoke, or stab him over and over again with Hiten, preventing Gojo from even thinking of re-upping his technique as he's getting barraged by Malevolent Shrine and Kamutoke and getting stabbed by Hiten, and then he just possibly dies right then and there, considering Sukuna probably could lop his head off, because it's just base Gojo. So it really depends on how much pressure Sukuna decides to put on once that first domain clash ends. If he doesn't put on the pressure and the domain is smaller, then Gojo could do the inverted conditions. But at the same time, with no Mahoraga involved, as Gojo himself admits, Sukuna could have easily just popped the dismantle out from the inside of the domain to crack the inside shell because the conditions were reversed, as Sukuna would likely be able to tell that. And then Gojo's back in the same situation. Then he'd probably go for small ball. But then again, we have the same issue with small ball, where Sukuna had multiple different options he could have done, such as attacking the inside of the barrier again, or he could compress the domain. Like, there are a bunch of options that Sukuna has, and with the better body, I could see him bulking out a whole lot more of Gojo than he did in canon. Especially with no Mahoraga influence, where he's trying to evolve his technique, he just doesn't know Gojo, and doesn't have any way to really evolve his technique, so he's just gonna try and kill him. And him trying to kill Gojo, pretty lethal, pretty dangerous. But at the same time, you could argue, I mean, can you argue though that Gojo wasn't really trying to kill him? I mean, like, he was trying to get him close to death. So maybe you could argue Gojo was holding back a bit, but as I've mentioned in previous videos, I ultimately don't think like a bloodlusted Gojo changes much. I genuinely don't think so. I think like stats-wise, we saw the peak of Gojo's abilities for the most part. Let's see.
That's a whole rabbit hole by itself that could probably be talked about in another video, but the reason I bring that up is because, well, he's going against Gojo freaking Satoru. I'm pretty sure he's like the only character Sukuna uses domain amplification on.
Yep.
Against literally everyone in Shinjuku, he just stands there and takes their techniques without even trying to use it. When LaRue caught him, domain amplification definitely would have released him, but that's neither here or there.
He also probably, I mean, I get why he didn't want to risk it, but he also got to use the DA against Higuruma's Executioner Sword. Like, he literally talks about Higuruma using DA, doesn't use it himself. Let's see.
Anyways, as for the Hollow Purple, I don't think domain amplification is really enough to mitigate the damage to this extent. This was Sukuna against Gojo's red while using domain amplification, and this was Sukuna against a 220% Hollow Purple that he misread and used lowered output on.
Yeah, honestly, Megana's durability is weird. I'm not gonna sugarcoat. It's weird. The only excuse I have for the red doing that much damage in comparison to the purple not doing over amounts of damage is, one, it's very likely that Sukuna was actually more damaged here, because notably you'll see his cloak is completely gone. So I do actually think Sukuna lost both of his arms, but what happened was he ended up regenerating the first one. As you can see, hold on, let me go this. Yeah, you can already see the steam curling off of this arm, implying that he fully regenerated the left arm, and he's currently still healing the right one. So I think he lost his arms fully, which is more than the red does. The red just burns his skin. So there is that way to justify it. And also you could just argue the output thing, right? Where Sukuna is not fully using DA because he can't fully activate it, or else he'd completely shut down Mahoraga in the adaptation. He'd basically have to start over. So we see whenever Sukuna is using DA, he's not using it at its highest output, because if he were to use it too long at its highest output, it would immediately negate Mahoraga and essentially invalidate a lot of the battle up to that point. So there is a lot of excuses you can make for Sukuna and his weird durability issues, and on top of that, he just has a better physical form, so I could see Heian or Sukuna still taking it. Especially considering it is implied, at least by the panel where we see Sukuna put his hands out to get eviscerated, that he doesn't even use DA to block the 200% Hollow Purple. He just uses his raw body. He literally goes stat for stat, and does manage to tank it pretty well. Let's see.
220% Hollow Purple that he misread and used lowered output on. Yeah, no, I don't think Sukuna only used domain amplification here, especially when in the next chapter we see Sukuna surprised about domain amplification getting through Gojo's infinity. So I don't really want to jump through hoops or anything like that, so let's just start the fight off exactly the same, except this time Sukuna has 3 arms facing the attack. The reason it's only 3 is because his mouth may be able to hold Kamutoke, but Hiten is still in one of his hands. Okay. So the other 3 arms are used to
well, technically, he could put Hiten in his belly mouth. Technically, I'm Mr. Restless. I'm kidding.
Try and cancel out the attack. Sukuna loses maybe less than he originally did, uses RCT, and they face each other. The strongest in history versus the strongest of today. Sukuna doesn't even give him the time of day. He takes Kamutoke out of his mouth and shoots the lightning at the boy immediately, but he's surprised to see that Gojo's very much completely unaffected by it. We see something similar with Sukuna's first fight with Gojo, but also his fight with Kashimo. When Sukuna sends slashes at Gojo to finish him off, he sees the damage applied to the area around Gojo, but not Gojo himself. I mean, heck, the debris is floating in front of him. Luckily, Kamutoke causes even more destruction, so if he shoots it at Gojo, even more debris will be floating in front of him, and he'll realize that there's something blocking his path to destroying him. Sukuna saw Kashimo be completely unaffected by Kamutoke, but never use it again against him because he's not dumb. Jogo...
He is stupid though. He is stupid. He's dumb. He's dumb. I will not let this go. Sukuna's an idiot. He's a dumb stupid head. He loves to gamble. He's a little bit restless with it. But still.
When he first went against Infinity, was too dumb to realize what was going on and kept shooting attacks, not realizing that they weren't even touching him. It wasn't until Gojo explained his technique that he actually stopped his efforts and, well, tried alternatives. For Sukuna, he of course sees that Gojo is unaffected and doesn't know 100% what he's going against, so he sends some slashes and watches as they literally never touch him. Because of this, Sukuna is caught lacking and Gojo goes on the offensive.
Espera. Once again, another issue. Oh, because I can't just say Sukuna is stupid. Gojo's also stupid. Another thing that could happen in this hypothetical alternative timeline, if we're really trying to get the Shinjuku squad to win. Why do I hear something? But if we're really trying to get the Shinjuku squad to win, same thing that could happen in the main timeline. Assuming Sukuna does block with all 4 arms, or at least 3 of his arms, and they're charred and they're burned. Gojo teleports in, unlimited void, GG's. If Sukuna cannot respond with DA, which we know actually apparently does, I was blown away by this, but DA also apparently does interact with sure hits weirdly. We don't see him use it in Yuta's domain for some reason. He uses Hollow Wicker Basket instead, so I guess it just implies Hollow Wicker Basket is better at dealing with sure hits, but DA does actually also interfere with sure hits, according to the data books. And we know he doesn't have that, so he'd have to like Hollow Wicker Basket it, but we also know he couldn't cast Hollow Wicker Basket. Say he's blocking with 3 of his 4 arms or all 4 of his arms. So let's say he puts Hiten in the belly mouth, Kamutoke in the hand mouth. Did I just say the hand? I'm so stupid. Hiten in the belly mouth, Kamutoke in his mouth, and he goes to block with all 4 arms. If he's handless and Gojo immediately teleports in and it's really considering he's trying to kill him, like just straight up immediately murder the man, because it's Sukuna, then he GG's him. He literally GG's, and then as Sukuna is paralyzed by Unlimited Void, he launches another Hollow Purple and wins. But I don't think Gamblr's going down that route. Gege didn't go down that route in the main manga. So I just want to bring that up because that's something that came to mind. Because that's one of the ways I think Gojo could have easily won, considering he could have just, warped in and immediately domained and not stood there talking to Sukuna. But like I said, I got issues with Sukuna. But let's see.
Throwing Sukuna around with telekinesis, and of course, Sukuna can counteract the efforts the exact same way he did originally, but this time, he's trying to see if there's any limitations to the force field. Obviously there's not, but he keeps on shooting down buildings to fall on Gojo, strategically sending slashes at times where he thinks he might be off guard, but they all can't seem to get through to the sorcerer in front of him, and Gojo takes advantage of that. I don't think you guys should underestimate the beast Gojo would put on Sukuna, especially considering the fact that he does not have domain amplification. Sukuna is cooked if he continues fighting like this.
Okay, so I'm assuming he's going to immediately go into domain. Like that's the thing, right? Without DA, if you do remove that from Heian Body Sukuna, he would literally just be like a punching bag for Gojo. Because once I gotta say this, no ability to surpass infinity, you aren't beating Gojo. As much as I love Maki, and I meet Rider to Doom, Despair, and Oblivion, you put her up against pre-awakened Teen Gojo, she has no win con. Not a single one. How's she getting past infinity? How's she doing it? SSK is wonderful, legendary, one of the best curse tools in the series, does not get past infinity. Yuji doesn't beat pre-awakened Teen Gojo, and I'm talking EOS Yuji. Because 1, his domain sucks, and 2, no way to get past infinity. Hikari doesn't beat pre-awakened Teen Gojo. Why? Infinity. Yuta would heavily struggle against pre-awakened Teen Gojo. And depending on how you scale that man's stats, relative to Yuta, he could actually still even win over a domain Yuta, depending on how you think things go. But I do think it's more Yuta's favor, because he could just domain him, and then Jacob's Ladder to shut off infinity, and then put the beats on him. So like there are ways, because we know the only counter technique we know Gojo has is Falling Blossom Emotion, but we know that doesn't work well against complicated sure hits. So something like Jacob's Ladder would count as a complicated sure hit. It would shut down infinity, and then Yuta and Rika just violate that Gojo. But like, that's it. Most of the heavy hitters, a lot of top tiers lose to pre-awakened Teen Gojo, all because of infinity. So yeah, even Heian Body Sukuna, with no way to surpass it without DA, he has to domain. Like it's not even, he doesn't really have a choice about it. He has to domain. So let's see.
Sukuna is taking damage, and more than he needs to, as he could easily just stop testing the waters and use what he knows will actually be effective. So he does it, and Gojo realizes as well, and immediately retaliates.
Oh, this is
The 2 strongest sorcerers clash domains, but this time, Sukuna doesn't know anything about Gojo's sure hit, and Gojo doesn't know about Sukuna's open barrier. These 2 are almost complete strangers. Sukuna also does not know to hold back because he doesn't know there's a whole platoon of other sorcerers coming in to beat.
Oh, language! Do I gamble with that one? Restlessly. I gotta stop making that same joke. Hold on. Let me just write this down. Editing me! Wake up! Wake up! I know you're asleep. Wake up. But that is, oh, darn. Why is the quality so poor on this? Oh my word. Hold on. Yeah, that's better looking. That's much better looking. But, what was I going to say? I completely forget. Well, it was something to do with the domain. It is weird. How long do you think it would take for either of them to domain? Because honestly, I could see Gojo domaining really early. Especially if he has like Sukuna in a compromised position. Like say he is like throwing Sukuna through a building. I could easily see Gojo teleporting behind him and immediately domaining, right? Because once again, Gojo's not really trying to preserve Sukuna in this case. He's just trying to murder him. So unironically, I could see, because especially with Sukuna's general hesitancy to open domain, I could see another sneaky win, not just like the opening sneaky win, but another sneaky win where Sukuna is still trying to test the waters and not really taking Gojo all too seriously, lets his guard down and gets domain. Especially considering he has no wariness for it, it's very likely that Sukuna did interact with domains in the past on the sheer gamble of it all. And if he gambles with a limited void, he's cooked. He better immediately haul a wicker basket or something, like he'd be cooked. But let's see. Oh.
Evenly matched, they form a pair within Gojo's barrier. The two sure hit guarantees overlap and cancel each other out. A battle with both sides expanding their domains. Evenly matched. Within the barrier, they are evenly matched. Sukuna's domain expansion is an open barrier domain, however, and its effective range reaches a staggering 200-meter radius. In the original story, Sukuna's domain expansion was hit with a binding vow to set its effective range way smaller than the 200 meters he's capable of.
And I still don't know why he did that. Well, obviously to keep Gojo alive. But like, still, that is a really weird choice. But he does bring up a good point. Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, Sukuna wouldn't know that anyone else is coming. He actually wouldn't know that. He wouldn't be able to sense anybody because they're hiding in Rika. And it doesn't seem like Sukuna could like sense them at all. So he probably would just go full scale. And then honestly, they may have to just wait for him to put himself in the technique burnout. Like if he just keeps the domain open, what are they gonna do? No one can walk in there. They'd all die. Let's see.
Because of this, Gojo had the opportunity to try and escape the effective range, but this only made it worse for Sukuna because from then, he had to stop Gojo from escaping. This led to Sukuna never having the ability to actually use Fuga, because despite what other people may try and make you believe, the actual reason he didn't use it the first time was because he wasn't given the opportunity to. By the time Fuga was fully charged, Gojo would have been escaped the domain range since it was so small.
Oh, interesting. I guess so, yeah. Because every single time they could domain clash after a break, because though admittedly though, you could definitely argue he should have been able to pull off Fuga once he made his domain bigger, right? After the first class, Gojo doesn't go that much farther. We know the domain doesn't actually shut down. So when he makes it bigger and then Gojo ups the inverter domain, realistically Fuga should have been fully charged by then. It would have been much smaller scale though, because the domain was much smaller scale. The thermobaric explosions and all that wouldn't be as big. Let's see.
Just because we literally see Sukuna use Fuga against Mahoraga despite setting the effective range to 140 meters, it's literally all up to the charge time. With that being said, Sukuna's domain would eventually break Gojo's, and now Gojo enters burnout. He watches as Gojo somehow is able to survive the onslaught and switches all his cursed tools to his left hands. With his left hand, he shoots Kamutoke in an attempt to gauge what's going on with Gojo, but he dodges it. Gojo realizes that there must be...
I think it'd be kind of crazy to assume that Gojo being assailed by a malevolent tribe with no technique would be able to dodge Kamutoke. I think that's a little insane. But then again, he would have seen it by this point in the battle as Gamblr's telling it. But like, that's kind of crazy. Would he? Would he be able to dodge that? I mean, like, he wasn't even able to fully dodge Sukuna, but then again, it's hard to argue. Is Sukuna faster than Kamutoke? Probably. So maybe, but remember, he couldn't even really get that far away from Sukuna before Sukuna was just right on top of him. So if Sukuna runs in, grabs him, and just... You may argue Sukuna doesn't want to get too close, though, because he's probably not immune to Kamutoke, but still, I'm dodging Kamutoke, kind of interesting. Let's see.
Be an escape route since it's an open domain, so he starts to attempt to run away, but suddenly the slashes stop, and Gojo heals up fully. He turns around to talk crap about the guy, but suddenly a fire arrow that he's been charging up with his right hands is sent straight at him while completely off guard. Gojo obviously dodges it, but the fire doesn't need to hit him specifically. The fact that it's in the air is enough, and it explodes. Gojo is now in the middle of an onslaught of thermobaric explosives that are heated up by the furnace, and Sukuna doesn't let him off that easily either. He shoots Kamutoke and whatever the heck Hiten is, and even comes up close to stop him from moving anywhere else. Maybe Gojo can sneak in a simple domain at
Okay. Interesting route. Gamblrr was going down. So yeah, like I thought, he's gonna have Sukuna beat Gojo, but he's taking it. Fuga was not the way I was thinking it. I was not thinking it. I was genuinely just thinking straight regular pressure, like stabbing him with Hiten, because we don't know what Hiten does. Like I said, whatever heck it does, but stabbing him with Hiten, blasting him with Kamutoke, maybe stabbing him directly with both of those weapons, throwing extra slashes on top of the already built-in slashes with the domain. Like, I was really thinking he was just gonna have to wear Gojo down through consistent pressure to stop him from re-upping his technique. A whole, you could argue, for how Gamblr's telling it, is that Gojo would have recovered his technique by this point, right? Like, we know he recovers it relatively quickly in the initial encounter, even while he is healing a majority of his brain off, because he comes up with the idea of healing it with his RCT. So especially if Sukuna is confused watching Gojo RCT for a little bit and he stands there, Gojo could re-up and then teleport out. Though it's debatable how effective the teleport would be while he's under so much pressure, but like, it is entirely possible. But then again, it comes back to the original issue with Gojo teleporting out. He needs to always engage with Sukuna. He can't just leave. He needs to stick there and fight the guy. So teleporting out doesn't do much other than buy Gojo some time to think, but how effective that would be is debatable. So assuming Gojo does stay in range and does like stick in character and stays really close to Sukuna, I could see Fuga popping out. Especially if with the full skill domain charging it, everything being torn to cinders, yeah, I could see it. And if Gojo's technique has not recovered by that point, then Fuga would actually boom him. The issue though, if, like another hole you could argue in the way Gamblr's telling it, if Gojo's technique does come back in time, and Sukuna does shut down the slashes, so Gojo fully heals himself, he ups his technique again, and he doesn't domain immediately, Fuga wouldn't work on him. It wouldn't work, because Infinity would be back up, right? So, even with the thermobaric explosions, we know that would not surpass Infinity. Gojo's technique would still have to be down. So, it really depends. Do you think Gojo's technique comes back in time before Fuga gets let off? Or do you think it stays locked away long enough that he's only talking smack and trying to recover his technique, and then he gets boomed by Fuga? It's real bad. This is an interesting path. Once again, I agree with Gamblrr. I think Sukuna would find a way to win. There are definitely a couple ways. Fuga was not a way I was thinking, but I'm not. This binding battle is like a way. This video's gonna be like an hour and a half. But there are definitely ways that Sukuna can win, and I think it's more interesting for Sukuna to win, just like it is more interesting in the main narrative to see how Sukuna is going to deal with everybody else. But considering if he's gonna boom Gojo in the first clash, then yeah, then the rest of the video don't really matter. He's gonna solo stop everybody. Because Yuji's useless, and Sukuna's still basically full output. Because the domain never got broken, he never took any brain damage. He's gonna give everyone back shots, wait!
As a last-ditch effort to stop what's going on, but it doesn't do anything. Furnace technically isn't the sure hit of the domain, but that's not even the reason simple domain doesn't stop it.
No, I do think that is a thing that, like I mentioned, could end up getting blocked by Infinity. But
what Furnace actually is using the matter form by being hit with the domain's sure hit and heating it up to explode. If you're hit with the cleave onslaught, you earn the new transformed matter, and all Sukuna had to do was send the arrow for it to explode on you. Gojo, despite using Simple Domain, is still exposed to the heat and therefore will keep being exposed to the explosions. I mean, it's kind of implied that's the case, as Gege chose to mention that the furnace remained cooled, rather than just saying the transformation never happened. It definitely did, but there was no heat to create the explosions because Gojo never allowed the freedom to let it off. So if there's heat now, explosions going off on Gojo's literal body and the area around him, a 4-armed Freakazoid in front of him keeping him at bay, 2 Cursed 2s being shot at him, and whatever that's going on, what is Gojo supposed to do? This is literally just a matter of him not knowing what would have happened going against an open domain expansion. Heck, he didn't even know it was open. It's not his fault, to be honest, but he does lose here.
Okay, I may peer through the comments later just to see, because I don't think people are gonna like that, but it is possible. But that's the thing. This does make the rest of this video like an easy stomp for Heian Sukuna. Like who's stopping him? Who's stopping him? Yuji, useless. Yuta, useless. Like everyone gets boomed now, unless Sukuna holds back. But he's gonna hold back because he's Sukuna. He's stupid.
However, I can sense the anger already, so let me just explain.
He knows. He knows.
It one more time to make it clear and concise. Sukuna didn't use Fuga against Gojo the first time because the domain range was so narrow. Gojo would've escaped by the time Sukuna charged up the flames. We see Sukuna literally have to box with Gojo because he instantly tried running, and for reference, look at how small the domain is, and Gojo couldn't even get near the edge.
That is actually crazy that he mentions it. Sukuna does manage to catch up to him that fast. And remember, it is in a weaker body. I always gotta hammer it home, because there are some people who consistently forget, and I'll blame him, because it's not really talked about too much, outside of like the one perfection statement. But Meguna is like way slower and weaker than Sukuna himself. Way slower and weaker. So if, Gamblrr brings up a fantastic point, if Meguna was able to catch Gojo when he was trying to run, true form hand body Sukuna is definitely grabbing Gojo, holding him still, beating the taste out of him with both of the cursed tools while charging Fuga. That is entirely possible. Especially with a full scale domain, Gojo probably wouldn't even realize. Like, that's the thing. I'm not even sure if Gojo would be able to tell that the barrier was fully open. He may be able to hazard a guess after his own domain shell shatters, but he may just assume the barrier's really, really, really big. Because he wouldn't get the automatic information that it was 200 meters. He would just have to guess and try to literally, hand and feet, run away from Sukuna, who probably wouldn't let him escape.
Now consider the fact that the domain is like 10 times bigger. Sukuna has 2 other arms he could literally fight with if push comes to shove. 2 cursed tools that could do something to halt Gojo from leaving, and I don't see an understandable scenario where Gojo doesn't just lose right there and then. The only possible solution to this, which is unlikely because of the other things Sukuna has, is of course very plainly Gojo running 200 meters away before Sukuna can shoot the arrow. It's not impossible because it's Gojo Satoru we're talking about here, but like I said,
it's mainly impossible because I don't think Sukuna would let him get that far. Once again, this is a Sukuna not trying to evolve his technique, a Sukuna who was randomly attacked, and a Sukuna who is notorious for slaughtering people. He'd probably just give Gojo back shots with Kamutoke and front shots with Heian. It'd look like a rotisserie chicken. Let's see.
It's super unlikely. Look at what 140 meters looks like, by the way. 200 meters, hand-to-hand combat, Heian and Kamutoke, and explosives that cannot be stopped.
This is the 200 meter one though, I'm pretty sure. This is the this is full skill, and I'm assuming he meant to put the Maharaga panel here. Let's see.
The final thing I want to add is that Sukuna assumed just closing his domain would be the death of Gojo. Mind you, this is considering the fact that Gojo can infinitely heal, use Simba domain, and he even still has his curse technique. Now, what would be the difference between that domain and what already happened in chapter 226? A Fuga that Gojo cannot escape.
Yeah. I think another thing about that though, if Gojo does have his technique back, which is possible. Actually, no, he may be brain damage locked out of it still at that point. Maybe that's what Sukuna's talking about next. He'll close his barrier, but he still talks about adapting to infinity. So maybe Furnace bypasses infinity, but I still don't think so. I think by the way infinity functions, Furnace still wouldn't be able to bypass it. Let's see.
Sukuna is now in burnout as Kashimo jumps down from the sky and Yorami is halted by Hikari. Sukuna shoots Kamutoke straight at Kashimo and Kashimo just brushes it off like the original story. Kashimo asks him about what it means to be the strongest and the pursuit of fulfillment, so Sukuna offers to teach him as Kashimo runs up to catch some smoke. He instantly gets negative diffed in base, so he goes into his curse technique and catches Sukuna by surprise. It's like an instant pace shift, so assuming Sukuna doesn't automatically perception blitz and kill Kashimo, which we all know he's not doing, Kashimo can probably get like a hit or two in before Sukuna adjusts to his speed. Obviously, after that initial pace increase, Sukuna would do Kashimo exactly like he did originally, but
he'd actually probably do him worse. Remember, this is like this Sukuna's output is still nerfed. This one right here. This one right here. Yeah, his output's still nerfed. He would violate Kashimo even worse. He would actually do him dirtier, which is crazy to think considering how dirty Kashimo was already done. We'll see.
But this time he's got to literally punch and kick him to death because he's still on burnout.
Oh, that's right. This is post-domain. Yeah, that's true. But then again, he could probably just recover his technique in time while dancing around Kashimo and then doom him or broom him. Or he could use Heian, whatever Heian does. Or he could just like stab Kashimo in the head. Kashimo still does appear to be human while getting electronic properties or electric properties. So like he could just stab him a whole bunch. It could work. We'll see.
He can easily do that. Kashimo's durability literally isn't anything crazy.
Gamblrr. I'm shocked to hear you say that. Really? Kashimo's durability isn't anything crazy? Same guy who no-sold all the attacks to Jackpot Hikari, unless... Wait a minute, Gamblrr. Are we agreeing that Hikari's a pillow puncher? Yeah, buddy. Yeah, we can... Never mind. Gamblrr. We must maintain the agenda at any priority. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, Hikari is fodder. That's what I'm talking about. Let's see.
Sukuna hadn't lost any output going against Gojo as well, so I think he could genuinely choso him. He teaches him about the pursuit of self-fulfillment inside of his innate domain, and as soon as the fight is finished, Sukuna regains his curse technique and watches as Yuji and Higuruma drop down from the sky. Sukuna senses something reminiscent of himself from Yuji, so he doesn't just automatically snipe them with Kamutoke. He wants to...
Okay, I was about to say, because it's the same thing. Sukuna, he has to be dumb. For the story to function, he has to be stupid, right? Because he, if not sniping on the sky with Kamutoke, literally just throw dismantles at him. Higuruma dies immediately, and Yuji takes heavy damage. In fact, he probably just die. And like Yuji would probably also die too. Even with the, like, even in this timeline, he does have some infusion of Sukuna's cursed energy, so he may like live a little bit, but then he just dies from the next couple slashes. He's still not as bulky as Ryu, especially outside of domain. So like, he's probably dying. Let's
see what's going on with them. Sukuna lets them get their attacks off, but a huge difference is made here. Yuji's attacks aren't actively nerfing Sukuna.
Yeah.
Sukuna is not an incarnated sorcerer, so Yuji has no soul barrier to sense or attack. He's also not out here just doing soul damage by default. I know I've said some BS about Yuji doing that, but months later...
Thank you! Okay! Hallelujah! Okay, so people are coming around. Because I remember I saw like Gamblrr, I think he had done like Maki versus Yuji or something. I haven't watched that video. I'm planning to do a couple reactions to Gamblrr today, and that is one of them. I gotta do Yuta versus Yuji, Maki versus Yuji, and now I'm gonna do that other Gojo one. He has another video I was thinking of reacting to. I think it was a One Piece one, but like I do not cover One Piece on the channel, so I may not do that one. But big brain tapalicious thing. Someone had mentioned that he said like Yuji does soul damage. Like, no, Gamblrr! Please, because he doesn't do soul damage. I promise you, man, he doesn't do soul. It was just Mahito because he was a dual soul being. That's it. If he can do soul damage, everyone can do soul damage. That's my big thing. That's why I always say, I made a bunch of videos on it. He can't do soul damage, or else Kashimo, Sukuna, Gojo, Maki, Toto, they would all do soul damage with every single hit, but we know that's not the case. Yuki will be able to do it too, because she's one who taught Yuji. So ultimately, we love that. Crazy freeze frame pause on now. We'll take.
Later, I think it's pretty clear that it's an ability exclusively effective on Mahito. If this wasn't the case, Sukuna would be using it on everyone.
Exactly.
Gojo would be using it on literally anyone would be using it, but they don't, because I guess that's just not how it works. So after their initial sequence, Higuruma pops his...
And that's the big thing, right? Yuji literally just becomes just an extra body. He's actually worthless here. Even in Yuta's domain, he can't play the same role because he just doesn't have the same applicability here, which is really rough for Yuji. Like that's actually really bad. It makes him basically useless in this fight. But
domain expansion and traps Sukuna as the defendant. Sukuna is charged with murdering entire platoons of sorcerers during the Heian era and is given the death penalty along with confiscation. But as Sukuna drops out of the domain, Hiten is gone and Kamutoke is still in Sukuna's hand. Man, I've been waiting for this part because Hiten is literally a complete mystery. I was just talking.
I mean, that's true. Like we still don't know what it does, and we never will know. We'll never know Yuji's domain expansion name. We will never know what Hiten does. We'll never know Usami's curse technique. We'll know nothing.
Higuruma didn't confiscate Sukuna's curse technique like intended. All he did was take away Hiten, and as Choso, Ino, and Kusakabe dropped down, Sukuna sent some slashes at Higuruma. These slashes...
The thing is, though, not only with Yuji not being able to nerf Sukuna and Sukuna's output not being down from the Gojo fight, but now everyone gets one shot by Kamutoke. Remember, Kashimo still took damage from Kamutoke, and he was literally supposedly immune to it. And while I actually think Kashimo's durability is kind of cracked, I think it's better than most. Thusly, everyone gets one shot by Kamutoke and full output slashes. So yeah, they're cooked. We'll take.
Slashes are much more powerful because Sukuna hasn't experienced any lower in output as opposed to the original story. Kusakabe is insanely injured despite having Sybil domain up, but Higuruma being behind him saves himself a quick trip to the gulag. Sukuna analyzes the situation. He's incredibly interested in the executioner.
And you could also definitely argue that even through Sybil domain, Kusakabe would still get one shot, because we know Sukuna's output was nerfed by Yuji and the battle with Gojo, so even his casual dismantles will likely do way more damage to Kusakabe and tear through him, and probably do more damage to Higuruma. And notably, since Sukuna doesn't have DA in this timeline, neither would Higuruma. So that's actually pretty bad for him too.
But the other sorcerers have some interesting techniques he wants to find out about as well, so he prioritizes the most fulfilling dish, Higuruma. Sukuna blisses everyone around him and grabs Higuruma by his face, running away with him like he did in the original story. Sukuna doesn't know about the sorcerer's boost in stats because he doesn't know any of them, so he's not going to entertain a race or anything of the sort. Enjoyment comes first. With Higuruma by himself, he toys with him, dodging his efforts to stab him and sending weakened slashes at him. Sadly, in this timeline, there was no way for Higuruma to learn domain amplification because no one uses it in front of him, but also no one even talked about it until Sukuna vs Gojo in the original story. However, Higuruma did see reverse cursing knee from Gojo, and so he learns it on the spot, and Sukuna is even more intrigued. Sukuna cuts an entire leg from him to see if he can go as far as to heal entire limbs, and he does, so Sukuna acknowledges him, but then he just kills him.
Yeah.
Right as he dies.
And the thing is, right, you run into the same issue with no lowered output at all. It's unlikely that Higuruma would even survive this cleave. He would just die. Unless you think Sukuna lowers his output to the same level he did in the main story, with a no nerfed output, full output cleave, Higuruma just like literally explodes. Unfort. Let's see.
Yuji and the others come back, and Yuji sends a piercing blow at Sukuna, to which he blocks with minimal effort. He shoots Kamutoke at Yuji and the others who are with him, and Yuji is basically the only one who can recover quick enough to engage in battle with Sukuna.
And the other ones probably die. Once again, Kamutoke should one-shot them. Even Yuji should take unrestricted damage from Kamutoke. He may almost like die immediately too, considering Kamutoke is not based on Sukuna's cursed energy. It's its own thing. It's a cursed tool, so you may actually just get electrocuted and fried. That's less interesting, so I get why he says Yuji would be able to recover quickly.
Right now, it's a countdown to Yuta coming back from his mission of killing Kenjaku. Kusakabe is out of the picture because of those slashes from earlier, so Wee sent him back. But right now, it's Yuji who's trying to fight Sukuna, Choso has reverse cursing knee so he can recover, and then, probably just got cooked by the attack, to be honest.
Yeah.
Remember that Sukuna can sense something from Yuji, so I think the fact that he can would allow Yuji to not get slaughtered automatically. I don't know what beef Sukuna had with current Yuji, maybe it's because he actually knows him, but this time Sukuna literally knows nothing about him except the fact that he's reminiscent of himself. Sukuna has also
but I wonder if that would make Sukuna even more aggro, right? Because we know he was disinterested. The reason Yuji survived so long in the main timeline is because Sukuna was disinterested in him. He was like, I don't find anything interesting about you, dog. You're mad boring. Go away. But in this timeline, if he's actually interested in Yuji, because he's like, you feel like me. That's weird. What? And then he may actually aggro on Yuji, and once again, this is a full output Sukuna, so Yuji may accidentally get one shot. Same thing I said about Higuruma, where the cleave may actually just boom Higuruma instantly, and they wouldn't be able to recover his body. Same thing for Yuji, where if he gets hit with that same full output cleave that Sukuna grabs his side with, his whole torso may just explode. And the thing about Yuji, we know his RCT just isn't the best. He literally like collapses after the cleave and after the Yuta domain because he can't heal himself properly because he has to do it all manually. So he may actually just die to getting bisected. Once again, not that interesting though, so I get why Gamblrr doesn't go that way.
Also never gone against or seen blood manipulation, so he wouldn't just choso right away.
Oh.
You gotta remember that Sukuna experienced an entire fight with Choso in the original story. He called him completely inferior. He was never interested in him. With that being said, Sukuna would also test the limits of both the brothers' reverse curse techniques, seeing as theirs isn't as simple as just healing. They're able to use blood manipulation to boost the effectiveness. As Sukuna toys with them, the floor starts lifting and out comes the cursed child, Yuta Kotsu. Yuta looks around to understand the situation. Kusakabe, Ino, and Higuruma aren't there, and it's only Yuji and Choso, so he doesn't waste a single second. He expands his domain. This time, unlike against Gojo, Sukuna isn't the one who expands the domain, and in his very dangerous pursuit of enjoyment, Sukuna doesn't retaliate. Instead, he activates Hollow Wicker Basket.
Okay, so Gamblrr, oh no! Is he gonna do Maki dirty then? Because he's keeping this way too in line with the original timeline. Because I assume if, Sukuna only went with Hollow Wicker Basket because he couldn't domain. Because his domain was lost. That's it, because he had brain damage still. I genuinely think he would have domained back. But then again, I get why, I keep saying this, but I get why Gamblrr isn't going down these more, like, decisive, quickly end it all routes, because that'd be boring. Though, very, very possible and very likely. So him going Hollow Wicker Basket here, it does lead to the Maki setup, so, like, maybe Maki still ends up being the clutch reason why they win this, but let's see.
The sure hit of the domain is cleave instead of Jacob's ladder because there isn't really a reason to rely on such a technique. Bored of Choso, Sukuna blasts him with Kamutoke.
Interesting. I mean, I guess I guess maybe so. Maybe there is no real reason to use Jacob's Ladder. I mean, it'd be nice to shut down his techniques, but with him still having Kamutoke, he's still dangerous regardless. But honestly, the less variables, the better. So maybe they'd still want to use Jacob's Ladder. But then again, Jacob's Ladder didn't work as long as Hollow Worker Basket was active. We saw Sukuna was able to use his technique with Hollow Worker Basket. So like, yeah, I get why he would use Cleave or anything more dangerous, because that would tear into Hollow Worker Basket even better. But that's it.
Toke and finishes the deal with a cleave to the face before anyone could react. It's Yuji, Yuta, and Rika he's facing now. Yuta has all the same techniques he had originally, but instead of one of the swords having cleave, one of them has Jacob's Ladder, and it allows him to cancel out any slashes Sukuna decides to use against him, of course given that he gets the sword. Yuji again isn't playing the same role he did originally, he's becoming an absolute liability. He watches as Yuta gets toyed with and locks in, running towards Sukuna as Yuta uses Don't Move, and Yuji hits one. After hitting his first Black Flash, Yuji awakened on the spot, unlocking
Early Black Flash?
Shrine for the first time and completely intriguing Sukuna. Yuta's cool and all, but he's got a mini him in front of him, so he blisters and cleaves Yuta's torso clean off, like Yuta said would happen if Sukuna was at full power, which he is, and the domain expansion is about to break. Sukuna didn't finish the job though, not really caring if Yuta survives or not because he's got better things to worry about. The domain officially breaks, but instead of Yuji being the main focus, a sword stabs straight into Sukuna's back.
No! 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 Maki, no! Maki! Maki, no! Maki, why? Maki, you could have saved us. You just had to stab his head. You just had to stab his head. I know he's tall, Maki. I know he's tall. Go for his dome. Go for his dome. No. What do you mean she went for the neck? I mean the back. I could very much continue the reference to that, but still, no, man. Why did she not go for the head? Why? Would they not tell her to go for the head? Why not? The only reason they went for the heart in the original timeline is because they knew he would survive it. Why not go for the dome? Because he died. Oh, man. Gosh darn, she's cooked. She's cooked. What? What? Gosh darn it. I mean, like, I assume Gen was going down the Sukuna winning route. Especially with how he depicted Gojo losing. But still, man! Maki actually could have clutched up here. I have to make my own video now, where Maki clutches up. Because that could actually be the case, where she stabs Sukuna in the head and he dies because he can't heal soul damage. Darn it, man! Darn it, Maki! You fumbled the bag! I mean, he can't heal his heart right now either, or ever, considering he wouldn't have the dual soul thing. But, like, still, he lives! He lives just fine. He just pumps his heart manually. Unless Maki, once again, manages to survive their encounter and then go for his head again later. Like, Maki, you're supposed to be here killing the man. Not tickling his chest. I know it's broad and muscular. But stop in that. Let's see. Let's put these eyeballs back on.
So, I know it's said that Sukuna could have dodged it under normal circumstances, but this is different. Again, that boy doesn't know any of these sorcerers, and sure as heck doesn't know someone with absolutely no curse energy that he cannot sense is on their side. Sukuna steps away and heals the wound, but notices that there's something wrong with.
Hey, Gam, what you mean heal the wound? Hold on. Let me hit the. What you mean heal the wound? He can't. He actually literally, like, as per the conditions of this very same chapter, he cannot heal that wound. Because he's not a dual-souled being, and he's had no experience with soul manipulation just yet, so he couldn't actually heal the wound. Well, that's a little incorrect, Mr. Gamblrr man. If I do say so myself. Once again, that would probably make him extra aggro on Maki, and immediately kill her. That's the unfortunate thing, right? The reason I was so adamant about Maki going for the head on some, literally, unironically, on some Infinity War Thor type beat, is because if she didn't, and Sukuna realized that he cannot heal her attacks, she's literally getting boomed seconds later. Because Sukuna's gonna be like, you can do what? With who? And I didn't feel you? Nah. Die. Nah. So Maki just cooked herself. But I don't think he should be able to heal the wound. Let's see if Gamblrr says anything about that.
He's not fully healed despite his outer wound being healed. He doesn't feel to be at his fullest power. Quick note on this, I assume reverse cursing can work on the actual limbs, but the soul is still damaged. I mean, against Naoya literally just heals up, and Mahito basically...
The only reason I'm against that, especially, I know he uses the Naoya example here, it's because Maki wasn't wielding it. And we know Daido he's close to the conditions of Maki, but he isn't actually where Maki is. We know it's only the Heavenly Restriction Duo who can perceive the souls of inanimate objects, meaning the Soul Split Katana was actually not properly being used in Daido's hands. In fact, he even mentions that it feels weird as he wields it. So, Daido's slash from SSK versus Maki's slash from SSK are different. So Sukuna wouldn't even be able to heal the physical wound, because we know soul damage in JJK directly affects your body. It's why Mahito, when he does the soul malignancies and maltransformations, like, Toto can't just heal his hand, or get his hand healed, and then, bada bing bada boom, it would be maybe just a dead hand, because he can't manipulate the soul inside of it, because it's not there. No, it's gone. Just like Sukuna's heart would be gone. He wouldn't be able to heal the physical wound either. Because, like, I think it's even said... Do I even run back? Because I have the computadora in front of me right now. So hold on. I may even run back to the chapter itself. Let's see. Because it just flat out says wounds cannot be healed unless you have dual soul perception. But let me take a look. Oh no, I will not be able to take a look. But I think it's like chapter 252 or something. Once you take damage from SSK and you don't have the ability to heal, you don't have dual soul perception or the ability to perceive the outline of your own soul, you're cooked. The wound is permanent. So, I disagree with the Gamblrr there, but once again, it doesn't matter. Since she went for the heart and not the head, she gets diffed. Oh no, Heartless Sukuna, he still body bags everyone. Let's see.
He does the exact same thing. But honestly, that's a topic I really don't want to get into, so y'all can let me know your thoughts in the comments. Sukuna almost climaxes at the sight of this. He's got a...
What? He what? He what? He what? He what?
Any him who has multiple curse techniques and he doesn't even know why this guy exists. And then a sorcerer with 0 curse energy that has a sword he can't even comprehend. But who does he want to get his entertainment from first? He blisses and cleaves Yuji's stomach, sending slashes at him to take him out of the fight temporarily. If he's actually worth his time, he'd be able to recover quickly. He then has his little 1v1 with Maki where it goes basically the exact same as it did originally, but this time there are no interferences. There's no Ino, no Kusakabe, it's him and the monster in front of him. He feels exhilaration. For the first time throughout his boring life, he felt he had to prove something. Sorcery versus the body, the peak of Jujutsu versus the peak of physical prowess. Who will come out on top? Sukuna gets active, he's excited and hits a black flash. Maki is temporarily out of the fight and by now Yuji has returned after healing from his injuries. They face off, holding their stances and going blow for blow. Each blow is a black flash, but Sukuna isn't going all out as to extract...
I kind of let him rock for a little bit because I'm trying to let this video be too long. But realistically, Maki's 1v1 without any interference, she dies faster. The Black Flash would actually probably kill her without any nerfed output. Same thing with Yuji. But Sukuna is presumably holding back a lot against both of them. So that's fine. That's fine. That makes sense within the context of the narrative.
Every ounce of enjoyment from the battle. Eventually though, Yuji can't keep up anymore. Despite Sukuna holding back, he can't really continue taking the attacks. Sukuna is about to deliver the final Black Flash, cocking his fist back. But suddenly, Yuji disappears. Miguel and LaRue have entered the battle and saved Yuji from sudden death. They put him down for Wee to go and send him back, and Miguel, despite not even wanting to be there, engages in battle. Sukuna gets hit with LaRue's hand curse technique, but he enters hand-to-hand combat with Miguel directly, and is intrigued by the effects of his curse technique. They box for
once again, yeah, so at least the one thing I'll say is Gamblrr is definitely going down just a mirror the narrative route, which is fine. Because I think if you don't, and I think that's why I've always hesitated to make a video like this, because it kind of always ends the same, right? Sukuna's at full output, he murders everybody. It's the same thing, like, I remember Lumiere, a while back, I reacted to that video, of it was like 15-finger Shibuya Sukuna versus everyone at Shinjuku, and like, it's the same thing, he just murders everybody. It's just like you kind of have to make sure that Sukuna stays like almost extra in character, right? Like, we already know he was holding back while he was heavily nerfed, so now he needs to hold back on top of his holding back to match his heavily nerfed self, so the narrative can go at least somewhat similar to how it's supposed to go in the main timeline. Because if not, that he just murders everybody. Like, if you assume every single attack just isn't debuffed, no one lives. Not even Miguel. Like, everyone dies very, very quickly. So I do get what Gamblr's going for here. And I do like it. Once again, I appreciate these, like, narrative recaps. Not just Sukuna massively outstats everybody and gives everybody back shots. Even if the more Sukuna gives everybody back shots is probably much more akin to what would happen traditionally. Let's see.
Relativity, Sukuna isn't taking the fight as seriously as him, but by the time Sukuna's almost done giving the beast to Miguel, Maki comes back and slices an arm off of Sukuna. After
Okay. Now. Hold on. Is she being dumped twice? Why? Okay, now again, once again, we need to have these panels. We need to make them do certain things. But why is Maki being dumb? Why is she even going for his arm in this timeline? Why is she not trying to decapitate him? Gamblrr. I can maybe, and I mean maybe, and not maybe, logistically, since they have no info on Sukuna, they wouldn't know that he'd survive without his heart, so they probably assume with SSK, it'd probably just immediately beam him, or boom him. But, big old Daisy's booty butt cheeks. You mean to tell me she goes for his arm and not his head? Like, even if she misses, he should at least, like, take off a portion of his dome. Like, why would she not do that? Why? Why would she not do that? Why is she being dumped twice? I know Maki and Toji aren't like this. No, but they are kind of smart. Why would they not try to decapitate him? They're trying to kill him. That I don't get. I don't like it. Once again, I get it. He's trying to make Sukuna win. And with how in character you can write Sukuna, there are definitely ways to make Sukuna win in character and out of character. But that's the thing. With bloodlust being on the mind, Maki is actually one of the biggest keys to just murdering a Sukuna, regardless if it's incarnated or not. Like, say they were even trying to just murder Megana or incarnated Sukuna, Maki could still just decapitated him. He wouldn't have been able to figure out the healing in time, like in the main timeline. So he would have just died. So, I don't know. I feel like Maki should have gone for the head at least once. And, like, he could have said Maki goes for the head, but Sukuna, using his precognition, which we know he has, reads it and dodges it. Because he's at full output, he's fully alert and everything. Rather than her just going for the arm, like the main timeline. She wouldn't do that here. That doesn't do anything for them. She would go for the head, because they're trying to kill him. But let's see.
After receiving yet another hit to his soul, something Sukuna doesn't even know is happening and can't reverse, Sukuna doesn't want to run the risk of taking more, so as he's about to engage with Maki, LaRue stops him in his tracks. Maki slices two of Sukuna's arms this time, and at this point, Sukuna isn't playing around.
But see, like, why is she not killing him? That's the thing. You cannot have these moments. Now, once again, Gamblrr, go to content creator, and I know. Once again, I called it all the way back at the start of the video. I see the vision. He's trying to make Sukuna win regardless, just to show how powerful Heian Buddy Sukuna is and stuff like that. And I do agree. There are definitely ways that Heian Buddy Sukuna wins. But if he's being dumb, if he's being stupid, he dies. Maki, like, at this point, with how Gamblrr was describing it, Maki could have killed him 3 times over. She could have either stabbed him in the head from Mount Star or decapitated him back when Yuta's domain initially collapsed. She could have appeared from nowhere after surviving the initial Black Flash, which I think is debatable that she could survive that initial one, considering Sukuna's at full output, but regardless, we'll say she survives that. She comes back and decapitates him again, or stabs him in the head again. And then this third time, where Luru's here grabs the heart, she kills him again. Why is she going for arms when their whole objective is to murder the man? That's the thing. I think that little bit of the plot is getting lost. Maki would be trying to murder him. Not disable anything so they could wear him down. She would take his head off. So I don't know. Like, yeah, but I don't know. I'm all for, you know, keeping things in character and trying to make things fit panels. That's why all my intros, because I try to do versus battle intros, like, they're really annoying because the panels don't exist. I'm doing, like, super what if scenarios. So the panels don't exist and they're really, really annoying to come up with. But in this case, don't have the idea being that they're here to murder Sukuna, and then have one of the characters who'd be really good at murdering Sukuna never try to murder Sukuna and just go for all non-vital areas. She went for the heart. I can excuse the first fumble. These next two, Maki's not that dumb. Come on.
Anymore. He jumps back, then forward towards Maki, blissing her and kicking the crap out of her. Then he blisses towards LaRue and hits him with a Black Flash, then blisses towards Miguel and hits him with one, with their annoying tactics. He regenerates both of his hands and expands the domain expansion at full strength and range, capturing all 3 of the sorcerers. He kills them and thinks he's won. He thinks about where Urami is, but then he's annoyed to find out that his gauntlet hasn't finished just yet. Minutes later, Toto emerges from out of nowhere alongside Yuji, who's healed back up to full strength. And so it's Sukuna and Burnout versus Toto and Yuji. The first thing Toto does is pick up a rock, throw it in the air with cursed energy, and swap Kamutoke with it. Now Sukuna really has to fight these boys with straight hands, as Toto swaps out a crow with Kamutoke from meters away. Toto puts Yuji and Sukuna into the swap roulette as Yuji adjusts to Toto's timing, but Sukuna is completely confused about what the heck is going on.
Yeah, he wouldn't know.
Yuji at this point focuses on black flashes as he really doesn't have the AP regularly to do lasting damage to this hulk of a sorcerer. With Toto's help...
In fact, a funny little thing that I bring up whenever I scale Yuji, but not enough that I think it's come like a common part of my arguments. Yuji, even with black flashes, doesn't actually do that much damage to a super nerf Sukuna. If you look at it, he doesn't. He kind of runs... I don't want to say this, and it's going to drive some people insane, but... I'm close. Let me whisper it to you. Let me get right up in your ear when I say it. Yuji's kind of a pillow puncher, too. He doesn't actually do that much damage with his physical hits when you re-reach Shinjuku. His AP is kind of buns. And remember, he's attacking the barrier of Sukuna's soul, too. So he's doing extra stuff. Even with the black flashes, he doesn't actually do that much damage to Sukuna. A lot of the damage you see on Sukuna is done by other characters, like Nobara, like Maki, like Yuta. So, yeah. Yuji's AP is actually kind of booty meat. So, even the black flashes, especially considering this is a full output Sukuna, they wouldn't do anything. Like he would generally take 0 damage. Like, he wouldn't take much damage at all. You can even see it in some of the panels here. Even when Yuji's landing black flashes, they just annoy Sukuna. And that's when his soul is being torn apart from Megamis. So, like, without that, Yuji's AP is a little buns. Just a little bit. Just a little buns. Let's see.
Yuji lands multiple hits, all black flashes, and even while Sukuna's attempting to adjust to the technique, he just can't, and he admits he can't because of how crazy Toto is using it. Finally...
And, like, look at this panel in particular.
Just can't, and he admits he can't because of how crazy Toto...
Look at this here. This isn't Sukuna. I mean, you could argue maybe this is Sukuna coughing up blood, but I think this is one of the sparks coming off of this whole spark here. Or actually, you know, this actually looks like blood, so maybe this is Sukuna coughing up blood. But look where Yuji lands a black flash. And Sukuna's already gaping, caves, open heart. And it barely does anything. Oh no, blood spurts out of the gaping hole in his chest? Shock horror. Yeah, Yuji's AP isn't all that. This is only... And the reason I bring it up is because I'm writing Hikari versus Yuji. And I got through the power section and I was like... Actually... Like, does Yuji actually have many AP feats to prove that he can damage? Like, he doesn't really. He's very much Hikari in the sense where he, like, throws characters around a lot and knocks them around and moves them, but he doesn't actually do much damage with his physical hits. Kind of like a certain restless gambler. What's it?
Toto is using it. Finally, Sukuna recovers his cursed technique for the 3rd time. Tired of the games being played on him, he plans to finish the deal once and for all. Domain expand. Sukuna was stopped in his tracks. No, this can't be. He knows he killed that sorcerer before. He looks at him. Yuta is in Higuruma's body.
Huh? Well, I guess it can't be Gojo's, because at this time, like, Gojo got incinerated by furnace. But, like, in Higuruma's? But see, I'm not sure I feel about that either, because if it goes like the main timeline, well, I guess if we're assuming Sukuna held back the cleave enough that Higuruma was in the same state, was in the main timeline, Higuruma wasn't dead! Did they kill Higuruma? Like, actually, like, and this is, like, I'm not sure what Gamble was implying here. Either A, Sukuna killed Higuruma in this timeline, unlike the main one, and he was a corpse in pieces, but they managed to put his body back together enough that Yuta could take it over. Or B, they just killed Higuruma because like he should have been alive. This feels a little weird too. I don't know, but I mean, interesting, I guess.
Dog, there was no recovering Gojo's body. The point of Furnace is to reduce everyone within the domain to ash. If it's effective against Gojo, they have nothing of him left. But they do have Higuruma, a character who said he'd give his life up for the mission. And
oh man, they just murdered Higuruma. Oh, that's pretty dark. Well, man, that's kind of crazy. They just killed him. Because like he should just recover, right? Like he should have been fine. We know the Executioner's Blade didn't disappear because he died. He lived. So like he was fine. Well, not fine, but like he was just dead. Like really. And the thing that makes me wonder, Why didn't Yuta just heal himself up fully and get back in the fight? He still had his 5... Well, no. No, he still had his 5-minute timer. He wouldn't have had much of it, but like he could have just healed his body up traditionally and come back to the fight again. Even after being bisected. He didn't have to transfer. But maybe he did. I don't know. This is actually kind of weird. We'll see.
And to be honest, his plan was basically one of the greatest to get it done. So Yuta took over his body, and well, here we are. Higuruma Yuta expands his domain, but Sukuna does as well. Higuruma's domain is pretty good at clashing, so all he has to do is find Sukuna guilty before the domain breaks from Sukuna's slashes. Quickly. They have to do it quickly.
I don't think they wouldn't have the time. I think ultimately, especially with this Yuta not having access to small ball, the domain would immediately break. Because he would, unless he did inverted conditions, like he instinctively did it after watching what happened with Gojo. If it was just like regular domain, it would instantly break because Malevolent Shrine is way stronger. And Higuruma's output wouldn't be able to fight back against it at all. So it would instantly shatter. But let's see.
I killed all these sorcerers today and feel nothing of it. Toto, Yuji, and Yuta are all confused, but they feel a glimmer of hope. Sukuna just admitted he's guilty. Surely he's about to get his cursed technique confiscated and they're going to get the Executioner Blade. This is it. This is the final chance. Wrong. The reason Sukuna didn't instantly win the tug of war is because Sukuna turned the Surehead off from inside the domain as to give them a false sense of safety. The entire time, Sukuna's just been working away the outside of it to break it, and as soon as he's about to get his cursed technique taken, the domain breaks. He starts laughing in their faces as they all use simple domain to delay the inevitable. He slowly closes the domain to up the output, closing it more and more narrow. But suddenly, Sukuna's slashes stop and his shrine disappears. Because Sukuna narrowed down the domain, in the air is a woman flying. She has a force field that completely turned off Sukuna's cursed technique. It's Angel with Jacob's ladder, and she shoots it at Sukuna at max output. Sukuna punches the ground to create a way to get up and climb the ladder. All he has to do is finish this pain off, and then he'll finish the others off. He's on his way and about to hit a Black Flash, but Toto switches with Hana at the last second and takes the Black Flash himself, breaking the Vibra Slap and taking him out of the battle. This is the last ditch effort of everyone else, a brawl with no certain way to finish Sukuna off. But the thought of that reality doesn't serve them, so they don't entertain it. Sukuna versus Angel, Yuji, and Yuta in Higuruma's body. Sukuna blisses and hits Hana with a Black Flash. That's one. Sukuna disappears from the side of Yuji and Yuta and ends up behind Yuta, punching straight through the body of Higuruma, throwing it at Yuji and trying to kick the both of them. That's two. Only Yuji's left to give his final efforts. Sukuna is still in burnout from Hana turning his domain off, so Yuji has to try his best. Domain expansion.
Yeah, okay.
Yuji uses his new ability for the first time and skips the chit chat.
But I wonder, would it still be the soul variation, I'm guessing? Or would it actually be just like regular Malevolent Shrine? Actually, I don't know. Let's see.
Again, Yuji knows nothing about that boy and just needs to get him out of here. So Sukuna uses Hollow Worker Basket, eliminating two of his hands, and they face off. It's a Black Flash masterclass. The two hit each other with Black Flash after Black Flash after Black Flash. The condition of Yuji worsens by the second, despite having a boost from his domain. He really can't do much to this absolute monster. And so, with no one else to interrupt him this time, he hits Yuji with the final and most powerful Black Flash, destroying the domain with the damage.
No bar on this timeline? Huh. I guess he could argue like the battle went quicker because there's no Goda interference, but no bar on this timeline, I guess. I mean, oh well, actually, it makes perfect sense. There's no bar on this timeline because there are no fingers. Yeah, never mind. There are no fingers for her to use because in this timeline, it's Heian bodies Sukuna. So yeah, actually, no bar on this timeline makes sense. Yeah, Sukuna just kills him. Darn, I didn't think about that. Wow.
Damage dealt to him, and the fight ends. Sukuna recovers his cursed technique once again and expands it over Yuji, Yuta, Toto, and Hana, slicing the sorcerers to bits and sending the fire arrow to make sure they never come back. A complete victory for the King of Curses. That is until Hikari pulls up, but I want Sukuna to win, so I'm going to...
See, there it is. There it is. He wants Sukuna to... I needed to hear it. Oh, there we go.
Completely skip past that. Anyways, what did y'all think of this video?
I'm shocked he didn't throw in Hikari, though. That would have been nice. But then again, Hikari is presumably still fighting Urume in this timeline, so I guess it makes sense.
Honestly, probably my favorite one I've made in the past like 2 to 3 months.
Oh, okay.
Let me know you guys' thoughts in the comments. Of course, make sure to like and subscribe.
I have liked and subscribed.
And I'll catch y'all in the next one.
Alright. I'll let the video play out, the full outro play out after I wrap it up. But a W video. Once again, I will admit, I do kind of disagree on how certain things were handled. Like, I can fully rock with Sukuna holding back a whole bunch. It's just in character for him. But Maki not failing to murder him 3 times is kind of crazy. Having 3 separate opportunities to do, and just like the whole SSK interaction in general. He got me all happy and geeked and freaking on the fact that he doesn't think Yuji does soul damage. Hallelujah. But then he's like, oh, Sukuna can just heal the physical wounds of SSK. Even though that's literally said to not be the case for someone like Sukuna. Or at least the Sukuna we're using here. So like, I'll lean and rock with that. That one does, like, it rustles my jimmies a little bit, I will admit. And I don't like the fact that Maki never actually tries to murder him. She's wasting time going for arms and stuff like that. Like, gang. And, like, thinking about it, depending on which arm she takes off, this timeline still could happen the way Gamblrr explains it. Because if she takes off both of his left arms, he can't activate domain. Unless you argue he goes with the new domain pathing they got from Gojo. But why would he go with new domain pathing? He still has his own domain pathing. So, like, I think Maki was kind of like, not written around weirdly, but kind of. I think it's the way, but Maki was written down. Because in a timeline where she's allowed to murder Sukuna, she murders Sukuna. Right? Like I said, even in the main timeline, if they're on kill Sukuna mode, Sukuna dies. He arguably may just die in Yuta's domain with no need for Maki, but then he definitely dies to Maki, who puts a sword through his head. Like that's the thing. I don't know. I'm not rocking with that, but outside of that, the video was done fantastically. I love the music. You saw me vibing for most of the video, and I love the Gamblrr storytelling style. So overall, a W video. If you made all the way to this video, though, this thicky of a video, I'm sorry I tried to keep it over an hour, but now we're here at an hour and a half. Please leave truly thick. You can do it with 2 C's or a K. I don't care which, but leave truly thick in the comment section down below. Like, thank you so much for watching. Remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure the notifications you don't miss out on every video that comes to the channel. Also, you can have a page down below. You support me for as low as $1. Get them on down on. He thinks like exclusive videos, early content, and more. Also, then become a member to the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. So, those perks include the live reactions here this season time to review, add variations of all my videos, and if you become a $2 Patreon or $2 member, you can order whatever video you want. Also, you have a link to my co-find position down below. You can drop 5 to a short video, to an small video, or any beats at all. Any support is always greatly appreciated. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is that guy with the pencil, writing off. I would like to give a thank you to our sketch tier members: Eternal Flame, Redwolf 4765, Astro, Super Flame Zero, Glacier, XZ, Zera, Brendan Payne, J2MA, Guillaume, Buddha Uda, Alex Kenny, Yuki Ally, Enzo, Nevis 97, Zachary Wilson, Azo 2404, Planet Crone, Rye Rich, G Prosper, Swift Strike, Alexicon, Striker Man, and Autumn Mornings Lazo. Then, I'd like to give a thank you to our line art patrons: Sean, Midnight Lord 21, Kevin, Encarnacion, Dread Zoan, and A+A. Then, I'd like to give a thank you to our Ink tier members: Austin Wimberly, Euchia, and Shrimpo the Shrimp. Then, I'd like to give a thank you to our digital art tier members: J Warrior and AZ Void. And I'd like to give a thank you to our colored art tier patrons: Waki Munoz and Waki Munoz. And a final and thank you to our ultimate, that guy with a pencil tier patron, Calvin's wife. Not Calvin Elder, who ultimately does have one of my kidneys, but now I must know, and I must undergo the process of getting the second one removed, so I can send the other over to this wonderful family.